National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Thank you for joining us between a thrilling Australia-Sri Lanka match. This is the National News on Rupavahini. Joining you today is Uwin Hetiaraji and I'm Shra Masquinius. First, it's a look at the day's headlines.
695 billion rupees supplementary estimate submitted to the Parliament. Food relief for destitute families free of charge. A decision to write off agrarian loans obtained by farmers with less than 2 hectares of land. Prime Minister urges the public to use LP gas and fuel scarcely considering the challenges of the next 3 weeks. Steps to interdict the judicial officer over the detention of the Russian flight. Our Premadasa Stadium packed with fans after many years. 21st Constitutional Amendment handed over to the Cabinet. Street battles between Russia and Ukraine intensify. Now on to those and more stories in detail. On today's top story, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe presented a supplementary estimate to spend 695 billion rupees to the Parliament today. Meanwhile, the approval of the Parliament was granted to increase the country's credit limit by 1 trillion rupees. The supplementary estimate was submitted to the intention to allocate additional funds to provide relief for the public affected with the present economic and social crises, and to maintain the essential services without any disruptions. Accordingly, the estimate was proposed to continue the payment of monthly allowance of 5,000 rupees to the public sector employees and pensioners. In addition, some of the recipients will continue to receive the 1,000 rupees allowance. Meanwhile, 140 billion rupees received from the financial assistance facility of the World Bank has been allocated to provide relief for the affected people. Also, 50 billion rupees will be allocated through the Indian Credit Facility to fulfill the power requirements. Provisions have also been allocated to fertilizer subsidiary and green agriculture. The approval of the Committee on Public Accounts was granted for the supplementary estimate. A budget with the revisions will be submitted to the Parliament with expenditures related to the new ministries. Sri Lankan fans are hurrying to the reach for our Premadasa Cricket Stadium to catch a thrilling 2020 encounter between Sri Lanka and Australia with much enthusiasm.
Australia is visiting Sri Lanka for a full series after 6 years. One of the fans who had come to witness the first match between Sri Lanka and Australia said that this series is a timely tournament. Those who came to the match today said that this series is important for the economy of the country as well as to boost the morale of the nation. They were cheering for the victory of the nation. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe urges the public to use LP gas and fuel scarcely considering the challenges in the next 3 weeks. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister addressing Parliament said that the government has decided to dismiss agrarian loans and distribute food items for the destitute families at free of charge considering the prevailing crisis situation in the country. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said that the prevailing challenge cannot be overcome by miracles, not from slogans nor emotions, but by implementing intelligently throughout projects requires hard work and dedication. Therefore, he said that they have to find $3,300 million worth of fuel for the next 6 months. He said that it costs $40 million a month to import gas. He added that the government is currently using multilateral assistance, local currency and Indian loans to import gas. He further said that the country will require $250 million over the next 6 months for gas. The next 3 weeks will be a tough time for the country with regards to fuel. The Premier said that the time has come for the people to use fuel gas scarcely and urge all citizens to refrain from hoarding fuel and gas during this period. He said that after those difficult 3 weeks, the government will put in the effort to provide fuel and food without further disruptions. In terms of rice, the Premier said that the country's annual rice requirement is 2.5 million metric tons. But he said that the country has only 1.6 million metric tons of rice in stock. He said that in a few months, the country will have to face serious difficulties and shortages in terms of diets. He added that the government requires to import food items to meet the daily requirements, which cost about $150 million a month. He said that the country needs $5 billion to ensure daily lives are not disrupted for the next 6 months. He said that the government needs to strengthen the rupee in line with the daily requirements of the citizens. He pointed out that another $1 billion is needed to strengthen the rupee. The government has lost 600 to 800 billion rupees in revenue with the abolition of the tax system implemented in the year 2019. Accordingly, he said that it was the beginning of the decline of the economy. Therefore, he said that the country must immediately return to the 2019 tax system. He pointed out that this move will begin the country's economic resurrection from the collapse. In the current situation in the country, the Prime Minister said that the government is unable to provide funds to cover the losses of any state-owned enterprises. The United Nations has arranged for a worldwide public appeal on the 9th of June, the Premier added. He said that these agencies are seeking support to provide humanitarian assistance to Sri Lanka. Through this project, they plan to provide $48 million over a 4-month period to the food, agriculture and health sectors. He said that India, China and Japan are leading the list of countries that provide the country with loans and assistance. Relations with these countries, which have always been strong, are now broken, he added, and emphasized that those relationships need to be rebuilt. He urged the Parliamentary Committee on Public Finance to conduct an inquiry into the suspension of the valuable projects granted to the country by long-time allies from unstated reasons. The interim budget will reduce unnecessary government spending while controlling other costs. He said the government will also focus on revitalizing many areas affected by the crisis. There is an urgent need to focus on many sectors such as export economy, tourism and construction, he added. The Prime Minister further said that the farming families who cultivate paddy on small lands are in a precarious situation. He pointed out that the farmers' loans obtained by families with less than 2 hectares of land will be stopped immediately. Also, he added that the ownership will be extended for their lands. Families live for rent in many of the suburban apartments. There are also long-term interest payments for home ownership. Therefore, he said that the government will take steps to transfer the ownership of all these houses to the residents of concessional basis. The Premier emphasized that when he was previously the Prime Minister, Chinese government donated 1,888 apartments to the country. 108 of these houses are reserved for artists. He said that his aspiration is to set up a program to provide those 1,888 homes for free. Efficiency and productivity have fallen to a very low level due to the provision of unlimited employment in the public service. Some government employees have no obligation to their duties. Therefore, the Premier said that the public sector needs to be completely restructured and reformed. He said that the mission of the government is to create a public service that will enable the citizen to receive immediate and efficient service throughout their lives without any hassle.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa says he will remain in the post for the next 2 years and complete his presidential mandate. He reiterated that he will not step down as a failed president. He made these remarks in an exclusive interview with Bloomberg agency recently. During the interview held at the official residence in Colombo, the president said that he had been given a mandate of 5 years and he will not contest again following his tenure. President Rajapaksa in the interview said that he wished to replicate his previous successful stints serving the nation, including his service as the Defence Secretary of the country. Stating that the government was delayed in seeking help from the International Monetary Fund, he said that the present situation would not have transpired if they had approached the agencies at least 6 months or a year earlier. In the interview, the president said that financial and legal advisors have given the appointment for a debt restructure in line with capital markets. He further said that he has already communicated with other nations to provide assistance to Sri Lanka in facing the present crisis situation. Minister Kanchana Wijesekara says that the distribution of petrol and diesel for the filling stations will resume in a normalised manner from tomorrow. The minister, speaking at the parliament, said that the decision was reached after being able to acquire 2 fuel tankers into the country. Meanwhile, the approval was granted to provisions worth $500 million under the Indian credit facility to import fuel in the future.
Minister Kanchana Wijesekara said that they only issued 3,200 metric tons of diesel and 2,800 metric tons of petrol to the market on daily basis at present. He added that they are expecting to issue 5,000 metric tons and 3,500 metric tons of petrol and diesel, respectively, will be issued to the market from tomorrow. He said that this decision was reached following the measures taken to obtain 2 full tankers to the country. Accordingly, he added that the relevant shipments will arrive on the 9th and 10th, respectively. Meanwhile, Mohamed Uwais assumed duties as the new chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation today. Long queues were seen near LP gas centres from this morning following the issuance of LAF gas to the market again. Litrogas company issuing a statement has said that a domestic gas distribution will not take place tomorrow. The company has further indicated that the domestic gas distribution will resume in several days. National Construction Association of Sri Lanka has decided to suspend all constructions temporarily, opposing the cement price hike.
Minister Bandula Gunawardena says that the 21st Constitutional Amendment Bill with revisions proposed by the party leaders was handed over to the Cabinet of Ministers yesterday.
He made these remarks during a media briefing held to announce the Cabinet decisions today.
Cabinet spokesman Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that the views on the amendment to the draft bill was obtained from party leaders during a meeting held yesterday with the Cabinet Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa. He added that the relevant draft bill will be debated in Cabinet meeting next week. He said that the draft bill is still in negotiation level. He said that the relevant constitutional amendment was presented to the request of the President. Minister Bandula Gunawardena also says that the Cabinet of Ministers agreed to render their services without receiving their entitled salary for a period of 1 year. He also said the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had faced many crises which cannot be handled by another state leader in the world. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that the President faced with challenges of COVID-19 pandemic and the failure to obtain credit from international markets and the drastic decline of tourist influx prompted by the pandemic, which tightened the economy. He added that the COVID-19 pandemic affected many countries around the world and economies collapsed due to the lockdowns. He also said that specialist agencies have been appointed to deep debt restructuring at present. He said that the President will be able to restore the country's economy after successfully overcoming the present challenges. He added that the new government under the leadership of the Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was formed to rally all parties together to overcome the present economic crisis. The minister pointed out that the President will complete his tenure as a successful President.
Co-Cabinet spokesman Minister Manusha Nanayakara said that migrant workers have been given the opportunity to provide a swift relief to the present economic crisis. Minister Manusha Nanayakara said that the opportunity will be facilitated to acquire medicine, fuel, LP gas and essential food items from the foreign remittances. He said that the economic crisis occurred due to poor decision-making in the past. He also said that looming food crisis has mainly been affected with the global food crisis and the recent decisions over the cultivations and fertilizers in the country. Therefore, he said that all should work together in overcoming the prevailing issues. Now, steps have been taken to interdict the fiscal officer of the Colombo Commercial High Court for the charges related to the alleged detention of the Russian flight.
The fiscal officer of the Colombo Commercial High Court has been charged for abusing the vested judicial powers in enforcing the injunction order issued against the flight belonging to Russia's Aeroflot Airlines. Accordingly, the Ministry of Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms took steps to interdict the officer over these allegations. Meanwhile, the video footage is circulating on social media platforms where the officers of Airport and Aviation Company were apologizing to the officials of the flight.
Supreme Court has sentenced former parliamentarian Ranjan Ramanayaka for 2 years imprisonment, suspended for 5 years in connection to the second contempt of court case. The relevant order was issued by the three-member judge panel comprised of the Supreme Court judges Bhuvanika Aluvihare, LTB Dehideniya and Gamini Amarasekara. The case was filed against the former Deputy Minister for allegedly making a controversial statement regarding the composition of the Supreme Court judge bench hearing the petitions filed against the President's dissolution of Parliament in 2018. Colombo High Court rejected a preliminary objection raised by the party of the defendants, claiming the inability to continue the case filed against former Minister Rajatha Senaratne and former SPC Chairman Rumi Mohammed over the White Van controversy. Meanwhile, former Central Bank Governor Ajit Niwad Cabral was released on a surety of 10 million rupees by the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court today.
The new Chancellor for the Eastern University and the new Vice-Chancellor for the Gampaha Vikramaraj University of Indigenous Medicine have been appointed. The relevant appointment letters were handed over by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa at President's House in Colombo today. Professor M. Selvaraja has been appointed as the new Chancellor of the Eastern University, and Professor R. Vikrama Senaraviratne of the Faculty of Medicine, the University of Ruhuna, has been appointed as the new Vice-Chancellor of the Gampaha Vikramaraj University of Indigenous Medicine.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe held discussions with the United Nations Resident Coordinator Hana Singh Hamdi yesterday to finalize plans regarding the UN's global humanitarian appeal for Sri Lanka. United Nations will focus on raising nearly $48 million in 4 months to ensure adequate food and medicine for the people. $34.5 million will be set aside for agriculture and food security, while $8 million for help focusing on women and children. In addition, $4.8 million will be allocated for the protection of children, including the provision of 1 meal for school children. We bring you stories from Ukraine soon after this break.
Now on to foreign news. The governor of Luhansk has said the Russian forces are maintaining their attacks on Severodonetsk as the battle for the key eastern cities continue in Ukraine.
The governor of Ukraine's Luhansk region, he said that Russian forces shelled the town of Zolot on yesterday morning and destroyed 13 houses. Ukraine authorities say that 5 civilians were killed in Donetsk region and wounded 9 others. Meanwhile, Ukraine has accused Russian forces of detaining some 600 people, mainly journalists and pro-Kiev elements in the southern region of Kherson, which Moscow's military now holds its power.
That's it for tonight's English News telecast. Thank you for joining us. Good night.